StoneX has just released its latest quarterly commodities outlook, unpacking the key trends shaping global markets. Today, we are diving into the outlook for the Brazilian real as we head into the final quarter of 2025, a period defined by shifting U.S. trade policies, global interest rate moves, and ongoing fiscal challenges at home. I'm Johanna Bota, and joining me to break it all down is Leonel Mattos, Market Intelligence Analyst with StoneX Brazil. Great to have you with us, Leonel.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So, as we move to the last quarter of 2025, what seem to be the main drivers influencing the outlook for the Brazilian real?
So the Brazilian real has moved along external factors and external dynamics this year. So we began January trading above R$ 6 per dollar here in Brazil, and nowadays it went as low as R$ 5.30 per dollar. So, but this strengthening of the Brazilian real was in a movement of a global movement of weakening of the dollar.
Hmm.
So the trade policies uncertainties, economic policies uncertainties for the US led to a broader diversification, a rotation out of the US, and that helped lot of currencies, including the Brazilian real. But we had some domestic factors that were important as well, mainly our high interest rate, helping to bring in foreigners and foreign capital.
Hmm. Okay, so then let's take it piece by piece. How are U.S. monetary and trade policies affecting the Brazilian real right now?
That's a great question. The uncertainties have certainly diminished over the past few months. So, uh, back in April, when we had the tariffs announcements, there was a lot of uncertainty of what would be the economic policies from the United States moving forward. And now, some months ahead, we have a rough picture of what it will be over the next months, but there is still some uncertainty around the economic policies, especially on trade policies, because since most of the economic changes policies were implemented by executive orders, it leaves room for change, a different view or different change, leading it to a reverse or a intensification. So we saw it back in July. We thought that Brazil would have a 10% base tariff on its exports for the United States, and suddenly we had an announcement of a 40% surcharge, bringing it to 50%. So this kind of fluid situation leaves investors a little bit uncertain and tends to weaken the and it tends to globally weaken the dollar and helps to strengthen our currency.
Hmm. And domestically, as you mentioned earlier, how is Brazil's monetary policy affecting the real's performance?
Well, we had two main factors affecting our Brazilian currency. The first one I mentioned is that our central bank is kind of in a isolated movement of raising its interest rate throughout 2025. So, and right now he's signaling to the markets that he wishes to keep the rates higher for a longer period of time to help to bring down inflation and inflation expectations. But most of the world is having progress toward price stabilization and are cutting rates, especially the Federal Reserve. Since the Fed began to cut rates now in September, we have these expectations that rates will be high here in Brazil,
Yeah.
but they are starting to gradually come down in the US, and that's helping our rate differential. And it's bringing a lot of foreign capital here in Brazil, helping to strengthen our currency. On the other hand, we do have some fiscal concerns from our government. Investors fear that the government might want to expand its expenses, the expenditure, public expenditure next year because we have an election here in Brazil, and there are some concerns about the sustainability of our debt, and that helped to devaluate the Brazilian real from time to time.
So let's actually stay with Brazil's fiscal picture. How much is that shaping where the real goes from here?
That's a great question, and we probably will see a lot of volatility in the coming months. So there is some fiscal concerns from investors about the sustainability of our debt because they fear that the government will expand its public debt on the next year. We have an election, presidential election in October 2026, so it's 12 months away, and it's roughly balanced right now. The early polls of voters' intention, they show a roughly balanced intention to vote both for the current government of Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and for the main opposition figures. So it should be a competitive challenge up to the finish line, and it probably will bring a lot of volatility of because of the uncertainty of not knowing who will be the next government, what will be the fiscal policies. We should know this just at the very near end, reaching October next year. So this higher fiscal concerns, let's say, this fear that the Brazilian government will expand its public debt next year, they usually tend to, let's say, I forgot how to say this word. This fiscal concern, yeah, afastar, push, they drive away. Sorry. So these fiscal concerns from investors to the Brazilian debt and the public expenditure in the next year, they usually tend to raise the risk premium that investor demand from Brazilian assets, and they tend to, let's say, higher outflows of capital, of external capital here in Brazil, and they tend to devaluate the Brazilian real. It's still too early to predict what will be the election outcome, but I think that we should see some devaluation of the Brazilian real from time to time, every time we have some important news on this election.
So, all things considered, what is your best case scenario for the real in the coming months?
So, as I mentioned, this we have a scenario with risks to both sides. We saw the Brazilian real strengthen a lot, but it could go lower, especially if we have this rate differential working in favor to Brazil, like the Federal Reserve keep cutting rates, inflation doesn't reaccelerate in the United States, and the labor market stays soft. That should help to strengthen the Brazilian real even further, but we do have some risks, important risks to the
Mhm.
upside that should be considered, especially the uncertainty regarding economic policies in the United States. Any change could affect us, and the possibility that maybe the Fed won't be able to cut as much as they thought. And fiscal concerns here in Brazil are also an important risk to keep an eye on. I'd say that I right now am slightly bullish to the Brazilian real. I think it will strengthen until the end of the year, but it will be volatile and unpredictable months ahead.
Leonel, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to our viewers for watching. For deeper insights and analysis, scan the QR code or click the link in the description to download the quarterly commodities outlook, available now on the StoneX website.